Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video we are going to be continuing with the 1960 Bolens Ride-a-matic project, and today we're going to be specifically dismantling the rear axle. Now the reason we're taking the whole rear axle apart is because of the large amounts of wear and play in a lot of the gearbox parts. You can kind of see it there, but you can actually see it a bit better on the other side, where it's quite a bit of up and down movement in there. On here, there's side to side movement too. And in general, since this is a mechanical restoration we want to do on this tractor, really we need to replace all of the bushings and bearings in the back axle here, which we do have some parts on order that we've been able to identify already, but seeing as this is our first time taking this apart, it'll probably take quite a while. Now the first thing that we're going to take off is actually on this side. It is the drive engagement gear. Now how this works is this back part should just freewheel on the shaft, and this part should, in theory I think, have a woodruff key in it to lock it onto the shaft, so that when you want to drive the tractor you push the pin in like it is at the moment. It locks the two together, stops this freewheeling and engages the drive. Whereas if you want to push the tractor, you pull this pin out, then they move separately, and when this is driven the shaft doesn't actually move. But what we need to do is undo this, or take off this circlip, so that we can take this stuff off this side. Now the shaft does go through into the differential where it has a small gear on it, but that will come out the other side we think. So from this side all we need to do is take the circlip off and slide these off. They should just slide off, but obviously it's not always that easy. It does look like it's been well lubricated before, so we can hope that it might be quite simple to get off. If not, we might have to use a puller, but we'll think about that later. Oh no, that moved quite easily for the first bit. I was right, this did have a woodruff key slot on it, and you can see the woodruff key on there, which I think is going to have to come out to let the other part off. So I'll just take that out, put it in this magnetic dish here so we don't lose it, and slide this piece off. That is a good point that I've just realised, that bit of chassis stuff is in the way. So I think to get this off we're going to have to pull the shaft out from the other side. Now just off camera I did actually manage to push this back a bit, which allowed this gear to come off, which shows that shaft isn't actually fixed anywhere, it's just sitting in there. So what I'll do now is take this washer off and put that with that. Now what we can do is go around to the other side, because that shaft lines up with this kind of viewing panel part. So I think if we take that out, get the torch in there a bit more, you can see that is the shaft, and we can actually push it all the way through and out. Like so. There we go. Put that on this tissue. And now, looking down that shaft, we can see a few bushes that we'll probably have to replace. Actually, no, that's a needle bearing, I believe.
Yeah, it should be a needle bearing on each end according to the parts book.
The next thing to come off will be the hub on the right hand side here, which is just this bolt here. Then there's quite a few washers, and then the hub should just slide off using the impact driver for this. That is a good point. That's just going to turn. Good thing the impact driver has enough torque to beat the turning force of the axle. Right, so take that off. If I can, I'd like to keep these washers and stuff with the bolt so that they're in order, all in the same place, like that. Then we just pull this hub off. It's well lubricated, which is good. And in here you can see, but you can't really see because it's covered in oil, but there's a bush in this end, bush in that end. And then this part here is made out of bronze, but you can actually see that those are meant to be square ends, but you can see that they're curved. That's where the drive part locks into it, which is what causes the back and forwards movement. Now that's off, we can put this on here. And effectively what we'll do now is we'll undo this big bolt, then undo all of these smaller ones, but because all of these seem to be a bit different from each other, that could take quite a while to find all the spanners we need to get them all undone. So what we'll do is undo all of the fixings to take this casing off, and then come back to you when we're ready to reveal what is underneath. Got all of the bolts off that we're holding on this bit of casing now, and while trying to damage the gasket the least amount possible, we're going to try and prise this off. Seems to be a bit stuck. Actually, seems to be fine. There should be an oil seal in there. Just a bit of a side note, but there's the remnants of something in there, but it's definitely not holding oil if that's meant to be the oil seal. We'll take this off and see how much oil is in here. Oh, lovely. Some rusty gearbox grease. Oh, that is just disgusting. By the looks of it, some water's got in there because of how quickly that's moving. Put that down there. There is also some rust on the inside of there, which also means that some water's got in there. You can see where our shaft comes out now onto this reduction gear, which then reduces the speed again onto this, which is the actual differential part with the spider gears, one on this side, one on that side. I'm really not liking the look of some of this oil and grease because it does look like it's got water and rust mixed in with it, which is really not a great sign. We're now going to dismantle the differential, and I've got gloves on like a customs man at the airport, mainly because I don't want my other ones to get messed up by all this oil, but we are going to take this apart. So first we'll take this gear off this side, which has the engagement part for the hub on it on that side, which put it down here. We've laid out a lot of blue tissue for this. Now we're going to take this big main part off, which has the spider gears on it. All of this is just caked in grease, which is good. It should be lubricated, but I'm not really, as said before, happy with how rusty some of this grease is looking. Now this one has a woodruff key in it, which you can actually see the keyway there. It's on that side, and that's so that it can actually drive that side. However, that is quite stuck on there, so I'm not fully sure how we're going to pull that off. And we need to pull that off to get this off, so we'll have to work that out pretty quickly. So before we start messing around with pullers, we did actually check if just hitting the shaft through would make this come off, which it does, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is, instead of infecting every tool we have with all this oil, I'm going to get the cameraman to hit this until that gear is off of its woodruff key. Then I can pull it off. Sorry if this is a bit shaky, but that is because the cameraman's doing it one-handed. It does sound like that.
Try pulling it now.
Yeah, it did sound like it hit a brick wall there.
Right, you put some tension on it and I'll just give it a tap.
Okay. you can exactly see, but yeah.
No, we'll have to think of something else.
We worked out why this shaft wouldn't push any further back, and that's because the wood rough key was pushing against here. But now that we've pulled this off using that tool, this should just slide right off. And we'll put that there. And also this big one should now be able to come off. I'm not sure if these are attached to each other, which is why. Yes, they are attached to each other. Of course, they're attached to each other. Try and get this off. Oh, there we go. I was about to say not sure what it stuck on, but clearly it wasn't. I think is all of the gears out of there. We've taken the worst of the lumps of grease off the back here, and that's so you can actually see this, which is one of the main reasons why we wanted to take this all apart. Masses of wear in that bushing there, tons of movement on the axle, which really isn't very good, but now there's nothing stopping it coming out. So what I will do is go around to this side and just slowly pull this out. This is all greased because there's a grease nipple there, greasing the entire shaft. I reckon that's getting quite close to the end now. And it is getting quite very stiff actually. But it's longer than I thought that would be. There we go. Put that there. And the next thing we're going to do is take off this back pan part of the cover. Now, we don't have to take this off technically to do what we want to do, but we're going to take it off because it'll make it easier to clean that up. We can then clean up behind it, and yeah, it then isn't in the way for anything that it might be slightly awkward around otherwise. We have this unbolted now, and I can pull this off and put it on here. Something we did notice is there is this rubber seal behind here, but there isn't one on this one, which you'd expect there to be a bit of a seal between the two metal parts where there's a hole, but that's irrelevant for the moment. What we want to do now is get the old bushings out of here and the old needle bearings out of there, and we'll have to come up with a method of doing that. Not fully sure how we'll do it at the moment. It might involve blind bearing puller, but we will sort something out and come back to you once we've worked out what we're doing. Now, our blind bearing puller idea didn't really work. We did try it, but we had no success with that, so we're going a bit more primitive this time. Just a bit of steel rod and a hammer. So we shall see how this goes. It did start to move already when we were testing it, but we wanted to get the bushing coming out on video. I will have to get my cameraman to hold the chassis to stop it moving. Let's see how this goes. There we go, that's that one out. And we can effectively use the same rod to do this side. We've now got the other bronze bush and the two needle bearings out. Now, we had to use the same method for the needle bearings as we did for the bronze bushes in the end, because the blind bearing puller really didn't seem to help us very much, so we might have to go tool shopping for the rest of this project, because there are quite a few more of these bronze bushes or bearings that we're going to have to pull out of difficult places like this, and we'd prefer not to keep using a rod and a hammer because it can damage the shaft, it damages the bearings and stuff like that, and it's just not the best practice. Now, with these needle bearings, this one is in good condition. This came out of this side, whereas the other one completely self-destructed when we were trying to clean it. Before we'd even hit it with a hammer, all of the needles were coming out. So that completely finished off whacking it with the hammer and the rod to get it out. But now that it's out, it's a good thing that we're replacing it and doing a full mechanical restoration on all of these bits. Now, the next thing for us to do will be to clean the whole lot of this stuff up. It's all caked in old grease. There's bits of water on there, rusty stuff. We need to get all of that off to see what the condition of these parts is like underneath that. And that's probably going to take us quite a while, and we're going to try and wear as little as possible of it. We also need to check our parts list as to what we've ordered already, so that in the next video, hopefully we can be reassembling all of this and finishing our first major component being restored on this tractor. But that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.